my pleasure to have Tim Byrne on. Thank you so much for coming here.
You're welcome.
And we're going to talk all about your business called GetBack, Inc.
That's correct.
Let's talk about your life first. You came here 30 years, I know you're like, oh, do we have time to do this? You came here 30 years ago.
Yes.
From Ireland, from Dublin.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me why you came here and what you first did when you came to America.
Well, at the time in Ireland, there was a lot of unemployment. And,
so this goes back in the 60s, 70s?
Well, no, this was, I came here permanently in 1988.
Okay.
And I was here in 1970 for one summer. I worked for my uncle in Brooklyn, painting houses. And
what did you think of America when you first came?
I loved it.
Why?
It just had an attraction to me that anything is possible. You know, there's an incredible amount of freedom to do what you want to do.
And how old were you when you realized that you could maybe realize a dream here?
Well, I used to look at John Wayne.
Okay, so John Wayne movies, and he was a cowboy movie star.
Well, it was, you know, we didn't have television growing up, so every weekend we went to the movies. And, you know, it was either cowboys or war movies at the time. That was in the 1950s. And, you know, my family, you know, any Irish family has a lot of people living in America. You know, I had, at the time, 3 uncles and about 25 cousins.
Wow.
So we used to get packages from America. We used to have hand-me-down clothes from my cousins in the States, and they were fabulous because they were like button-down shirts all the way. That was incredible. Our you know, collars on our buttons and plaid shirts and just things.
So it was fancy. It looked kind of fancy.
It was very cool to go to the Christian Brothers wearing a button-down shirt.
Aw. So you come here at some point and decide to stay. So tell me about that.
In 1987, I took a trip on my own over, and just to see, you know, if there was work and so forth. And I came here, and I was like working the next day. So I had a sister living in Connecticut at the time, so I went and stayed with her, and I made a phone call to somebody she recommended, and they hired me right away. So I went back to Ireland, gathered up my family, and brought them over here. And we, 4 of us arrived, 3 suitcases, and a couple of $100, and we started there.
Where did you start?
We lived in Danbury, in Connecticut, Connecticut, and
scary a little bit.
well,
not much money.
Yeah, it was. It was. You know, we got an apartment with no furniture, nothing. We slept on the floor.
And you made it work.
Yes.
How soon did you start to make it work? Because we're going to get to your company now that is just awesome.
Well, I had a job which was terrific, and I got to work for a really great employer, a man in Bridgefield, and I really enjoyed it. I was working construction. It was hard work, but I enjoyed it. You know, the chance to be able to work and consistently was great, and I really liked it, and I loved the opportunity to be able to. Not prove myself, but just to, you know, I love working with my hands, and I really enjoyed what I was doing here. You know, I was cabinet making for the company, I was finished carpentry, and I really enjoyed it.
So along about 2000, the year 2000, you decide to set up a company, and you name it GetBack, Inc.
Yes.
Tell me about this. Where did this come from? And you're in an old brass mill.
Yes.
In the Oakville section of Watertown.
Yes.
How did this happen?
Well, I wanted to do something different. I was cabinet making at the time, and you know, I really enjoyed it. But I always had a real attraction to antiques. You know, I grew up in an old Georgian house in Dublin that was furnished with like Chippendale and Georgian style furniture. It was quite depressing. Now, I don't know, was that my childhood or was it the furniture, but how or never. But I really liked it. I liked furniture. I wasn't the type of guy that would like carve his name in anything. You know, I really...
You took care.
Yeah. And But I wanted to be involved in antiques in some way. And my wife, Kathleen, says, why don't you just go for it, Tim? You know, she's very, very supportive. And so I emptied my van of all the tools, and I filled it up with antiques, and I drove into 25th Street in New York, which was a flea market. And I set up, I rented a space for the day, and I'm going to start on my new adventure as Tim Byrne Antiques.
Okay.
I didn't sell a thing. That was the end of my antique career.
Packed the van back up and went back to
Yeah,
Connecticut.
went back cabinet making.
Then what happened?
And then 3 months later, a good friend of mine, also from Dublin, Tim, you got to go back. You got to go back. And I knew he was right. But what I had to do is I had to study and I had to learn what I was dealing with. So I chose mid-century modern furniture at the time. And I liked the 50s design. It was a great, like after the war, design was really, you know, people were really expressing themselves, and I liked that whole look. So I decided to study it, learn what I was going to get involved in, got books and books and books and studied, and I began to pick, as they, you know, like the American pickers, I suppose. And then every week I'd go to the flea market and sell my wares. And while I was at the flea markets in the city, I would see things like industrial pieces popping up.
Like heavy stuff.
Heavy stuff, yeah,
World War
grubby
II kind of
and
stuff.
yeah, tables, stools. The first thing that caught my eye were stools, and they intrigued me. I thought, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. You know, growing up in Ireland, we didn't have that industrial. It wasn't an industrial country. It was, you know, agriculture and fisheries and so forth. So
Yeah, back then our factories were pumping out stuff. Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff. After the Second World War, 55% of what was made in the world was made in the U.S., which was quite amazing when you think about it.
So you look at this vintage industrial furniture and lighting, and you decide, I'm going to build a company around it?
Well, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get my hands on some of this first and see what it's like. And I began to investigate it. I continued to sell mid-century modern furniture, but I rented a space in a factory in Oakville, and we rented, I think it was about 3,000 square feet. And we put all our woodworking equipment in there. Eddie, another Dublin man, came and worked with me. And we set up shop, and we go to the flea market every weekend, and we would sell our mid-century modern. But during the week, we would start buying just industrial pieces, and we'd go into scrapyards, we'd go into old factories, and go to industrial auctions. And Eddie would be like, "What are you buying that stuff for? You know, what are you going to do with it?"
Because it's heavy, and you're storing it.
And
what are you going to
do?
do?
It's filthy, and you know, it has nothing really going on with it until we get our hands to it. So we were buying stools, workbenches, shelving units, lighting, and anything that caught my interest, you know, mechanical that could be turned into a table or whatever. So 2000, I named the company GetBack because, you know, we're moving so fast.
Go back to the past to find your future, yes?
Well, that's a good thing. We wanted to kind of capture that whole era, I suppose, because I think, you know, design was very practical at the time. You know, everything was a lot of it was cast iron, and the process of casting something involved a lot of people. You know, the designer, the pattern maker, the foundry, the machine shop, and then the person who assembled it to become a machine. You know, that involved a lot of people, a lot of skilled people. So the end product was always fabulous. The design was great because they would compensate for the amount of steel they were going to use, so they designed it in such a way. And actually, if you see things out of printing factories, they're really, really ornate, and they would hand paint on the machines. And now they took a tremendous amount of pride in what they did. And
To set the scene, while you're talking about this, let's roll a video of what you're doing in Oakville. Let's watch this.
Okay. My name is Tim Byrne. I'm an Irish cabinet maker and I own a company called GetBack Inc. We create vintage American industrial furniture. We scour the US, the factories, old mills, and we rescue pieces of machinery, industrial objects, lighting related to the American Industrial Revolution, restore them and present them as functional pieces of furniture. And that's all we deal in, actually, is American industrial. It's masculine, it is well built, well designed, and it just seems to have a sense of strength about the piece that I don't see in any other countries around the world. The casting is superb, the structure and the design of the piece is superb, and to me they're just works of art. Each piece has its own inherent beauty because of the setting that it was used in. It's worn, it has a certain look to it, and it just developed a character during the time that it was in that factory, which when people buy it, they are actually buying a piece of history. It's the scars and nicks on these pieces that makes them beautiful. We are based in Connecticut in an old brass mill which was built in the 1800s, and it really gives us a sense of connection to the building itself, because it seems like we are keeping an industry alive. It's a fantastic setting for what we do. You know, some of these pieces are going to travel all over the world, but we love the fact that the origin of it is the USA.
So, a collection in 30,000 square feet now of stuff, including things like this.
Yes.
How did you build this? What is this made out of?
Well, this is a light that was used on a machine in an old shoe factory up in Endicott, New York.
Everything is a story, you know? All right, shoe factory.
Okay,
Endicott.
so it was this piece here, which was designed, it may have a patent. It's Troy, New York.
Yes.
This bracket was, and I think that's probably from, it doesn't say, but the early 1900s, probably just turn of the century. And this piece was from a company called O.C. White in Massachusetts. A very interesting story. He was a dentist in the 1800s, and he couldn't get any good lighting that would articulate so he could look in this patient's mouth.
Sure.
Yeah. So he began to design lights himself, and he was an avid photographer, so he had a sense of what he was doing, and went on to build this incredible lighting company that's still there today.
A dentist.
A dentist, yeah.
Go figure. All right, now you're building part of this, right?
Well, we had to, so this is what we do. This is what we're good at. We want to keep the original piece itself, and then we want to make it into a functional piece of furniture. So we designed a base that this lamp tilts in any direction. You can, you can turn it sideways. You can actually turn it this way.
It's a great study lamp.
Yeah, if you study.
So you're engineering all of this.
Well, this is the way the light was made, and when you think about it, it's over 100 years old, and it still works perfectly. Now, when we found it, and it was just like a rust. I mean, it was just.
It's in a barn or a junk.
Actually, yeah. Well, this particular one I found with about 90 other ones, and it was in an estate auction up in just north of Binghamton. I'm not going to give away my source.
Nor should you. You're in retail. You should never do that.
So I spotted them at this auction, and it seemed like an employee of the company, when they changed the lighting, took all these home, and they were in his basement. So when he died, they settled the estate, and I saw them at the auction, and I drove up to Binghamton, and I bid on them, and I won them.
And you said, here we go.
Here we go. We can do something really cool.
Do you travel all over the Northeast and find stuff, or will you pull over to the side of the road and go, I want to know what's in that barn? I mean, how do you find all of your stuff? You have sources now since 2000?
Well, we do now. You know, people contact us constantly. We even have Indian companies asking us for our designs because they want to build. We'll build anything for you, but you know, we want to make everything here in the United States and continue to do that. But to answer your question, yeah, when God, my poor wife, God bless her, she was so patient with me, you know, because I'd be on the road like for days, and Eddie and I would get off and we'd start driving here, there, and everywhere into old factories.
And he's
old
a
mills.
partner?
Eddie chose to come and work with me, another good Irish cabinet maker. Salt of the earth, a really nice man. And so we would travel around and we would go into these old factories and you know, we'd look around, see what we could find. We'd go to industrial auctions, and soon we began to accumulate a lot of this stuff and build a bit of a reputation. And we built a website. My son, my eldest son Gary, built our first website.
And it's looking great.
Well, we've improved it, you know, over the years.
So profitable now, since 2000. Are you
Yes.
where you want to be with your business, or are there many things you still want to do?
No, there's lots I want to do. There's lots of things I want to do. What we're in the process now of doing is I have a lot of ideas that could go into manufacturing.
And you want to mass produce
Yes,
more
I think,
things.
yeah, to make the business healthy, we'd like to do that. Because I don't think, I absolutely know that we have influenced this style of furniture greatly. You know, in the last 15 years, in fact, if you look about the last 7 or 8 years, it's become very, very popular. Mm-hmm. When we started GetBack Inc., we didn't even know what to call it.
Well, you were ahead of your time.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. You know, I want to show some other pictures of
Okay.
things that you have up
Okay.
in that 30,000. Now, this you probably just swooned over when you
Theater
found these.
seats, yeah.
So these are theater seats. Where do they come out of?
They come out of an old, these ones came out of an old theater, I think from a Masonic temple.
Wow. And did you just varnish them up and shine
Well,
them
we
up?
cleaned them, yeah. I mean, when you look at it now, they look fabulous, but
Yes.
a lot of people might just walk right past them and say,
But not you, Tim.
Not me, no.
No. What else do we have here? The
These
stool.
are industrial stools, yeah. They were you know, when I started picking up these things in the beginning, I could not believe the amount of companies that were making them. I mean, it must have been huge, you know, the amount of companies that supplied, you know, like stools and benches.
For
and
factories,
chairs.
I would
Yeah,
assume,
it's
yeah.
just incredible. Like, there was an incredible factory up in New Britain that anytime, yeah, that.
What is that? You made something awesome
Well,
out of it.
what we did, it was an old factory cart, and we got a piece of marble from they used to use a lot of marble in printing factories, and they would get this marble and build it on a rudimentary table, which, you know, had no real look to it. They used 2x4s or whatever, but they used the marble, and over the years would get a great patina on it. And that's what we're after. So we take the marble out of the tables and we'll use them for, you know, like this could be a kitchen island or
Oh,
or
absolutely.
a bar or whatever.
Now, you've built a wall system. Department
Yes.
87. Tell me
Yes.
about this.
We took a patent on this a couple of years ago, and it has an incredible amount of uses. It has a unique fastening system to the wall that is, you can install it anywhere quickly.
And it's not going anywhere because it's heavy.
It is
right?
heavy, yeah, but it was to look like something that came out of a factory.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being, years ago, factories were totally self-sufficient, had their own carpenters, electricians, laboratories, printing, and everything. And they would have their in-house carpenter build. You know, if they needed shelves somewhere, oh, you know, could you put some shelves in there because the machinist needs somewhere to put his whatever, you know. So over the years, you get to see some really great stuff. So the idea came up that we would like to make something that resembled columns in a factory with shelving and so forth. So we designed this whole system.
And clothing stores all over the country
Clothing.
now? Who
Yes.
has these?
Actually, we just did a lot for a specific tile company here in Connecticut. We're doing a bunch of their stores. We've done a lot of urban kind of clothing stores, you know,
The sky's the limit. I think we have one more picture, and the warehouse inventory.
Oh, that's
now,
my wife's table.
That's your
that I
wife's table.
sold.
Oh well, let's not talk about that.
No.
Can we come to your warehouse and see all this and buy off the floor? What happens at your warehouse?
Absolutely. You know, give us a call. Let us know you're on your way, so we'll roll out the red
You'll
carpet
sweep the
for
floor,
you.
get a little, put the coffee on. But in 30,000 square feet, you're manufacturing and you're displaying.
Right.
And is this big enough for you, 30,000 square feet? Or maybe not?
I think actually, yeah, it is big enough, but if we go into manufacturing, we're going to have to expand.
Oh,
And we're going to have to, you know, we're going to, and you know, next month we're going to release something that we're very excited about. And I think we're going to have to get bigger premises because this is going to be a very hot item.
So coming to this country decades ago, you made it, Tim. You're living your dream. You're successful. The sky's the limit.
Right.
Do you pinch yourself sometimes?
I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
And I would say anybody who works for you knows that.
Yeah, well, people who work for me want to work. They want to be there, you know, and I like that because, you know, you can tell if somebody's interested or not. And it's not that we encourage them to move on, but we'll encourage people to find what really motivates them and you know, try and help them find that. And so I'm very blessed to have great people work for me. And they enjoy being there, and they enjoy where we're going and how we think and how we look at things. And we have a lot of fun. So I love it. You know, I love what I do. I love that saying, if you have a job you love, you never work a day in your life. And,
I love that too. Tim Byrne, thank you so much for coming
my pleasure.
on and telling your story. It's a good one. The sky's the limit for you.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Pursuits when one listen. Who is this girl I spend all night kissing? And if Walter's right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked if I'm a wishing to find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Need to keep locked in the grocery store of my mind. Just to save time, I'll skip right ahead to the last ride. The harder we look, the less we can see. Don't you know, you know that you need me.